by reciting Kitab Al-Fatiha. Amin, amin, ya rabbal alamin. Brothers and sisters, I would like to welcome everyone to the Istac-Iium series on spiritual, intellectual, and mental well-being enhancement. And this is the talk number 7 for the year of 2023. My name is Nur Shazwani, and I am very honored to be your MC for this session. Thank you for the participants who are joining in the Zoom and also in the YouTube Istac TV. I hope you are having a good day and in a great health. Inshallah. Today, we will have an interesting topic entitled How to Keep Our Spiritual Heart in Good Health, and it will be delivered by our beloved teacher, Emeritus Prof. Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar. First of all, thank you, Prof, for being with us this afternoon. I think most of us has known Prof. Osman, but for those who are new to Istac, Prof. Osman is a doctorate in Islamic philosophy from Temple University, Philadelphia. He is currently holder of Al-Ghazali Chair of Epistemology and Civilisational Studies and Renewal at Istac-Iium, and Emeritus Professor in Philosophy of Science at University of Malaya. He was also formerly Malaysia Chair of Islam in Southeast Asia at Georgetown University, Washington, D.C. Prof. Osman is author and editor of 42 books and numerous articles on various aspects of Islamic thought and civilization. His most well-known book is Classification of Knowledge in Islam, and he has been named among the 500 most influential Muslims in the world since 2009. Subhanallah, very inspiring. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our esteemed speaker, Prof. Osman Bakar, to share his ideas and thoughts regarding our topic for today. Prof, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sister Nur Shazwani. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. Thank you, Sister Shazwani, for the introduction, and I welcome everyone to this discussion of this talk this afternoon. We have only 1 hour the time for us to talk about such a very important subject, a very broad subject, but I will focus basically on a couple of things. Yeah, so let us look at the topic that we are going to discuss. Yeah? So the topic that has been advertised is how to keep our spiritual heart in good health. So the emphasis here, the focus here is on the how. So the practical things. Those of you who followed a series of lectures I gave in that series on the Al-Ghazali's psychology, if you remember, some time back, I already provide a detailed explanation of what we call the spiritual heart, the connection with the physical heart, right? Of course, dealing more with the views of Al-Ghazali. So here, maybe I just begin my presentation today by just referring to some of the important points that I have already given you before. So let me just, I have not prepared really slides, but I just have one slide here. I just want to have jotted some points that I would like to touch on, and briefly because of the time, so at least you get the important ideas, some ideas of what we need to do in order to have our spiritual heart healthy. All right. Let me begin with this very important statement. And I hope you will try to reflect on it, because it is fully loaded in terms of ideas, in terms of I want you to reflect on this statement. The heart of human health is the health of the spiritual heart. So we therefore I want to go into that, the heart of the matter. That is the heart of human health, because this is what we are interested: human health, which is holistic in nature, integrating physical health, psychological health, the intellectual health, and spiritual health. But the heart of all this is the spiritual heart, which we have said before that it is something distinct, different from the physical heart, but nonetheless they are somehow related to each other. And for Al-Ghazali, for example, the knowledge of physical heart is necessary to the understanding of the working of the spiritual heart. In other words, by analogy. So that's what Al-Ghazali provides analogy between the physical heart and the spiritual heart. So what do we know about the spiritual heart before going into the ways and means of keeping it healthy? But to begin with, what do we know about the spiritual heart? I am producing here from Al-Ghazali, according to Al-Ghazali, what we call spiritual heart, as distinct from physical heart, is a subtle substance that is ethereal. This is the translation of what the word used by Al-Ghazali, latifa. Yeah, this in other words, subtle. The idea of subtleness. It is ethereal. It is not physical ether, but it is non-physical. That's the first thing about the spiritual heart. The nature of our spiritual heart, which cannot be seen by using our physical eyes. We can't do that. We can't see, but the existence of the heart is provided by revelation, by the prophetic hadith, and by inferences in the rational inferences from data contained in the Quran and the hadith. So in Islam, in Islamic thought, the existence of spiritual heart is accepted. I mean, it is axiomatic and something that is a fact. But that is the first thing we can say, is it is latifa. But it is also Rabbaniya, yeah? Rabbani, it's lordly or divine. Lordly or divine. So in other words, it carries divine attributes, yeah, in the sense that there's something divine about the spiritual heart. That's why the Prophet ﷺ referred to the heart of the believer, of the mu'min, as the throne of Allah, the throne of God. And it is spiritual in nature. Ruhaniyah, it is spiritual in nature. So these three words, latifa, rabbaniya, and ruhaniyah, ethereal, lordly or divine, and spiritual. That's the first thing. Now, the second point that Al-Ghazali emphasized, the spiritual heart is the part of human being which perceives and knows and experiences. So it is both the cognitive. You are talking here now about something both cognitive and affective, perceives and knows, and experiences. It is addressed and held responsible and rebuked, and it has connection with the physical heart. That's the second thing about the spiritual heart. Now, the other one is that the heart, the spiritual heart, is the center of man's whole being. Just as the physical heart is the center of the body, in the sense that it is governs, regulates all functions of the physical body. In the same way, so it is by analogy, the spiritual heart is the center of whole being. In this sense, our knowledge, our emotions, our all kinds of experiences, yeah, imaginative, spiritual, in fact, the entire thing. And that is the center. That center is the spiritual heart. So the spiritual heart is connected. The spiritual heart is connected to the body, to the mind, to the ruh, and the spirit, the imagination, imaginative, and all that. Yeah. So that's why we had the center. All right. So at least as what I'm saying, that should serve as a kind of a background for us now to discuss about how to keep that heart healthy. Yeah? I think the most important thing everything is to start with good intentions. In other words, if you want to have a healthy heart, right, a healthy heart, then our intentions must be pious, must be good, must be based on knowledge, based on something that is for our own goodness. So the important role played by good intentions in the health of spiritual heart. So in other words, therefore the consequence of that, in other words, if we have bad intentions, we have evil intentions, we have intentions not based upon knowledge, not based on then that will affect the health of the spiritual heart. So this is the difference between, as I say, a good-hearted individual, yeah? A good-hearted individual, and contrast that with those who have diseases in their heart. Right? So that's very. I'm sure everyone knows. That's why the importance of niyyah in Islam, in the Islamic teaching. In other words, the quality of our niyyah intentions that will affect the outcome, the quality of outcome of our actions. So in other words, that's very much emphasized, but first of all, that everything is evaluated according to our niyyah. Now, next, I want to just want to say something about, of course, since you are talking about how to keep the good health of our spiritual heart, then there must be something related to diseases and health. So I think this issue of the concept of spiritual diseases, what are these spiritual diseases? Again, referred to Al-Ghazali in Al-Muddin, he enumerated so many kinds of spiritual diseases, how to avoid that, how to so this is basically what we are talking about. So, for example, if we refer to the Quran, the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, I think the first, in other words, quite early in that chapter, the Quran refers already to spiritual diseases. In fact, that was refers fi qulubihim mardun fazadahum Allahu marada wa lahum adhabun alimun. In other words, in their hearts is spiritual disease, and Allah increase that disease. In other words, that disease can deteriorate, can spread, something like cancerous. Yeah. So some spiritual diseases, and of course that verse in the Quran, of course, refer to the although the word nifaq, hypocrisy, was not mentioned, but the those verses refer to the spiritual disease of hypocrisy, spiritual hypocrisy, nifaq. So that's it. And of course, the Quran not only refers to diseases of the heart, but also to the heart that is the opposite, which is healthy, which is wholesome. And I refer here to this a verse in Surah Ash-Shu'ara, chapter 26, verse 89. إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. بقلب سليم. In other words, but only he will prosper that brings to Allah a sound heart. That's qalbun salimun. In other words, we can transfer as sound, healthy, wholesome. So without defect, the heart without defect. That's the ideal. That's what that's what we want to achieve. A healthy heart. So there are two possibilities basically. Yeah, a heart can be our heart can be infected with spiritual diseases like hypocrisy, arrogance, and so on. And but at the same time, it is possible. In other words, Islam provides that possibility of each one of us to attain to have a very healthy heart, qalbun salimun. All right, so that's it. But so now, with that possibility, yeah, with two possibilities that is open to us now, whether we want to let our heart healthy or we just let our heart to be infected with all kinds of spiritual diseases. So it's not possible for me to go into detail the question of the what are the various spiritual diseases, but we assume that we are prone, or we are susceptible to having this disease. The question is, how can we avoid? How can we overcome? If we already have some diseases, then how do we overcome it? For those of us who think that we are quite healthy, spiritually speaking, then the question still, it can be improved. It can be improved further. So given the rest of the time this afternoon, so I just want to emphasize this one. I want to talk about the 6 spiritual formulae for the health of spiritual heart. So there are formulae, spiritual formulae, to be sure. How to maintain, how to keep healthy our spiritual heart. Now, what do I mean by spiritual formula? What I mean by spiritual formula, words, in the phrases, words, all right, in which the word Allah is present. So in other words, formula becomes a spiritual formula which is good for us to practice, to recite, if the word Allah is present, because the special role, the important role, played by that word Allah. The word Allah is not just an ordinary word. It is not a word. It is the best of all words, the most beautiful of all words. It is the most powerful of all words. It is the most impactful of all words. So, but how each one of us reacts to the name Allah, how our heart responds. The moment we mention the word Allah, then we in a sense we know how our heart responds to that word. Different people respond differently because the state of our heart is not the same. Yeah. So some people, the believers, yeah, you mention the word Allah, then automatically it's connected, right? In other words, you feel fear, yeah. In other words, you feel fear, or at another level, the response could be you feel love, you know, express love, so something, you know, or the other one, you want to mention the word Allah, you imagine the all-knowing, the omniscient reality, the absolute reality that is that knows everything. Yeah. So these kinds of responses from the human heart are mentioned in the Quran. So basically, the all spiritual formulae that are famous in Islam, that are well known, that are recommended for us to invoke, to recite, they are in the Quran. Yeah? In fact, the whole Quran, of course, is Ash-Shifa. Yeah, the whole of the Quran, not just a particular verse. The whole verse is Ash-Shifa. In other words, is a medicine, is a cure. All right, but there are certain phrases in the Quran that are more special, that are more powerful in terms of impact than the other parts of the Quran. So I, based on the prophetic hadith, based on the Quran, I refer to the 6 spiritual formulae that every one of us really recite, do. But of course, in order to serve as spiritual medicine, it's not simply the verbal recitation, you know, but rather it's a combination. In other words, consciousness enters into it, our level of understanding. But what are these 6 spiritual formula? I said this tasbih, yeah, tasbih. We say Subhanallah. So Subhanallah is a spiritual formula. Of course, it is in the Quran, it is provided in the Hadith. Yeah? So tasbih. In other words, this is a kind of it is a very powerful. It is a very powerful, important formula that we do recite after each prayer, for example. Yeah. So it is on top of our prayer, of our salat, the 5 prayers, the daily prayer, and each time we pray, after the prayer, after we give Assalamu alaikum, and then want to do after the salat, we want to do this tasbih. Yeah, Prophet recommends that each time after each prayer we recite 33 times tasbih, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Now, I'm saying this formula, tasbih, it is both preventive medicine and therapeutic medicine. In fact, all the 6 formula, it is tahmid, takbir, istighfar, as-salatu al-nabi, the salutation on the Prophet, and tahlil, the la ilaha illallah. To me, this 6, in fact, most basically it is generally accepted. These are the 6 most important spiritual formula that we do every day, right? That we do recite every day. So after sabih, but what is important is when we invoke Subhanallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeah, where is our concentration? Are we really, is our mind really in a state of concentration, or we just, our tongue says it, but somehow we do not internalize the meaning of that. This is, I think, if the medicine is to be effective, then we have to do something more than just merely reciting the words. So this is a very important thing. that it is preventive medicine in the sense that it by making these our common exercises, by common, I call it exercise, spiritual exercise. So if every day we do this spiritual exercise, tasbih, knowing the meaning, what do you mean by subhanallah? So if we refer to the Quran, then they explain the meaning in the sense of it tells us about our attitudes towards Allah. So basically, this preventive medicine, the tasbih, is for us to understand the ideal relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is just only one. The others we were talking about the others later, but that's just not, that's tasbih. So you see the context in which that the tasbih is used, yeah. In other words, to address the possibility to correct that possibility where we are attributing something which is not proper to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something which happens. It happens among many people, in other words, because people do not really understand, yeah, do not have a good knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of God, then people attribute wrong thing to Allah. So just in case we have attributed or misattribute, attribute wrongly to Allah, then this invocation tasbih is hopefully will, in a sense, the sin of wrongly attributing to Allah will be will be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the point is, the habit of doing tasbih should lead us to the correct understanding. In fact, so therefore tasbih address what is not really proper to Allah. So it is a kind of negation. Yeah, it is a kind of negation, or kind of nafi, a kind of nafi, negation. That is not the attribute of Allah. Yeah. So the other one, of course, is to affirm. It is bad to affirm what is the proper attribute of Allah. So when we invoke this consciousness, our consciousness of these two things, what is not proper to Allah and what is proper to Allah, should always be in our mind. And we are doing this throughout our life. Maintain this as a habit, as a kind of our necessary spiritual exercise. Just as our body, physical body needs exercise, just as our physical heart needs physical exercise, needs us to do physical exercises like walking, cycling, and so on. So in the same way, our spiritual heart requires us to do spiritual exercise. And one of these exercises is this tasbih, subhanallah, to say subhanallah. But to understand, then the exercise will become more effective, efficacious. All right. Now, the other one next is tahmid. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Now, this is, in other words, certainly what is very, very obvious as far as Islam is concerned is to kill the ego. To kill the ego, in a self excessive egomania. In other people who try to project his own self, his own ego, to the point of neglecting, or rather, taking away something which really belongs to Allah. So that's why when we, in other words, when the question of praises, every individual is doing praise someone, pray or receive praise. He gives praise or he receives praise. Now, this act of praising if we don't be careful, I'm not careful, then we may that lead to a situation where we want to acknowledge this the cause of everything, the power of everything, as belonging to ourselves rather than to God. So the basically the preventive meaning or the therapeutic meaning of this tahmid is to make sure, then in other words, to control our ego. It's always to acknowledge that every praise is for Allah. We are just merely instruments. He's the instruments of God. But the real source of that praise is Allah, because nothing will happen except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore tahmid teaches us to cultivate that attitude, that relation with Allah. And that is an aspect of in other words, just as tasbih will, in the sense that exercise will make our heart healthier. So the same thing, tahmid, because certainly this all diseases related to our ego. In other words, the kind of spiritual disease that leads to other kinds of diseases in society, or personal diseases as well as social diseases. So that's tahmid. In other words, to acknowledge that metaphysical source of everything that deserves to be praised. Yes, we do thanks other people. We do, in other words, say shukran. We are thankful to other human beings for whatever they do, but that thankfulness, this should always be in the light of the awareness that Allah is the source of everything. And of course, it's takbir. This is the third spiritual formula, which is very important. But this is also of the three tasbih, tahmid, and takbir. So it is also we see in our society, this is also the one that is being wrongly, this is misused. It is misused even politically. So there's also what we call the takbir political takbir. Some people don't understand what is the really meaning of that takbir. When you misuse it, when you're thinking that your takbir is the best because you have the loudest takbir, or in some political, in political life right now, campaigning in Malaysia, for elections for some states. So this is a misuse takbir. So Al-Ghazali mentioned this in Istac-Iium. Said some people don't know what is really the meaning when we say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Yes, I mean, it is the greatest. That is the popular the understanding, the meaning of what is generally, which is popularly acknowledged and which is accepted. Takbir, yes, that's true. That is in the kind of superlative. You have kabir, so you have akbar, akbaru. But then the Arabic word akbaru, this can be translated both as greater and greatest. So this is very important. When we translate that as in the form of comparative rather than superlative, it is greater. The point is that Al-Ghazali said, when we mention the word takbir, yes, we say Allah, we acknowledge the greatness of Allah, the power of Allah. But then the true understanding of it is that we are always concerned then the attribute of greatness to Allah is not really fitting for Allah. Allah is much greater than what. So no matter how great we think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is greater than that. So Allah is greater than whatever you want to think about the power of Allah. So I suppose those who who want to use for social life, for example, we should recognize that. But the important thing here is that why we invoke, we do this exercise of takbir is precisely to have that relationship between us and Allah, in which we always we fear that we are not marked to the mark. We are not to the mark, and we are not. In other words, our acknowledgement of Allah's power is much less than what Allah deserves as Kabir, as the greatest. All right. So this is my the first set of spiritual formula that we recite basically after every prayer, and this is my advice. Yeah, my advice, in other words, if you want our hearts to be healthy, then practice this three formula every day. Do it. Yeah, but always try to improve in our understanding or the meaning of each of these formula. Then if we do that, then these three formula will become our preventive medicine, will prevent us, will prevent us from doing sins. Yeah. In other words, the sins of in various forms. So there's a preventive value here, but there's also the therapeutic value. In other words, based on our current situation of our soul, of our heart. In other words, there are a lot of things that need to be improved to improve our health. So again, this formula can help to do that, to achieve, to help us attain that goal. Now, another set of formula, which also very important for the health of the heart. And again, we need to know what is the meaning of each formula that we recite. So basically, there are three here. So istighfar, astaghfirullah. So we do this exercise, astaghfirullah, and the hadith of the Prophet referring to, for example, we need to do every morning. We need to do istighfar 100 times, 190 times, because this is how we, in others, we erase our sins, that we get Allah forgive us. So you get this maghfirah, from Allah. So that is entire istighfar. This is astaghfirullah. But again, as I said, the word Allah in that formula, that gives power, that gives efficacy to that formula. Why is that formula very useful, very good? Because it contains the word Allah, and that word Allah, because when you say Allah, then Allah is the greatest purifier of all, the greatest purifying agent. Allah purifies. By mentioning the word astaghfirullah, the presence of that word Allah will purify our heart. Our heart becomes purified because we practice this istighfar. Because Allah is the forgiving. Inna Allaha ghafurur rahim. Verily, Allah is forgiving and the merciful. Yeah. So in other words, here the forgiving is, in a sense, is a part of that divine mercy, compassion, Rahim. In other words, Allah exercises his function of Rahim, his quality of Rahim, one of which is through this forgiving, the divine act of forgiving. Allah is forgiving. So, and we, by reciting Istighfar, Allah will erase whatever sins that we had, the sins that we have between two prayers, and Istighfar helps us to purify. Yeah, so it is good for us to understand the meaning of Allah as the forgiving. So again, the purpose here is it brings us closer to Allah. The next one, of course, is the as-salatu ala nabi, as-salawatu ala nabi, salutation on the Prophet, salute. The salute here. Yeah. Do you know that the word English word salutation is derived from the word sallu? I've checked this, and I checked the origin of the Latin word. Yeah, the origin of the Latin word actually is salute. Yeah, is derived from the Arabic word sallu. So it's nothing now to be ashamed of, or to feel that it is to use the word salutation is not proper and proper. It's just an English translation of sallu. Yeah, the salawat, salawat ke atas Nabi, salatu ala Nabi. Now this is, in other words, if we do that, for example, if you do that 100 times every morning, yeah. And certainly we are encouraged to, in the Quran, we should salute as much as possible, salawat on the Prophet as much as possible. This because of the spiritual value of this on the purification of the heart, on what they call the sound, the sound heart. Because here is a kind of spiritual energy that is pouring into the heart of the believer, right? Through the Prophet. Because the real purpose, in other words, people ask, why should we do salute on the Prophet, but we should salat on Nabi when he is already the perfect person, perfect man? Well, it's true in reality, the Prophet does not need our salutation, Allah, because Allah Himself, force that the salawat ala Nabi, but it's more for our own benefit. So in other words, we salute on the Prophet, but it is for our own good. In other words, because in other verses of the Quran that Allah the salutation on the in other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also in a sense descend, pour that salutation on the mu'min, on other mu'min, not just on the prophets. So that particular verse that the believers are commanded to salute on the Prophet, that's only one of the verses in the Quran. But the point is here, this particular spiritual formula is very, very can be very impactful on our heart. All right, and the sixth formula, and of course the third of the other set, tahlil, the la ilaha illallah, the shahada, the reciting the shahada. This is in a sense it is the most important of all the spiritual formula. Yeah, so we do that every day as much as possible, so that the meaning of that tawheed, the meaning of the unity of Allah, will sink into our heart. So our heart experience that kind of enlightenment. It's basically enlightenment. It's an act of enlightenment. The more we do this tahleel, to invoke the shahada, then we will see that we can feel it, we can experience it, all right? But of course, it's also the formula that is most connected with knowledge. La ilaha illallah is a statement of knowledge. It is, in other words, that knowledge, that statement, which emphasizes that Allah is alone is the true reality, the absolute reality. To the extent that our human reality exists, we are dependent on the absolute reality. So that, in other words, that consciousness of being dependent on Allah, in reality we are nothing. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are nothing. So that's why many Sufi spiritual masters try to analyze the formula of La ilaha illallah. There are only 4 words, but the 4 words are magical, and the impact. And yeah, basically it consists of 2 parts. La ilaha is the nafi, is the negation, and illallah is the isbat, the affirmation. In other words, to affirm. Yeah? So there's nothing that exists that can be considered as God. There's only one God. But to the extent the various existence exist, they only, in a sense, they exist because they depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they exist in other words, to serve as evidence, as for the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically, to me, these are the very important 6 spiritual formula that we should recite every day. If we are interested, we are really interested in having a sound heart. That's the key. So in one sense, it is simple, but the difficulty is to practice it. We could be stubborn, we could be lazy. Yeah? Laziness itself is a spiritual disease. Laziness is spiritual disease. But my point is that the message that I would like to convey here is that if we recite these 2 sets of spiritual formula, then I believe, experience it, that our heart will become, in a sense, will become healthier, and hopefully, inshallah, we hope that our heart is we go back to Allah with a sound heart, and remember that the real face of human being is not our physical face. Our warrior watch is not the real physical face. Is not that face which is in our IC with our passport, but the heart. That's why Allah is interested. Allah is interested in our heart and not in our physical face, because our true face is the heart. And just as we try to protect, or to make sure that our face is in good condition, but more important is our spiritual face, which is our heart. All right, so I think I'll stop there. Maybe some questions from me. I think this is clear what I want to say to you. And this formula, I can call it like a spiritual vitamin. All these are prescribed by the greatest of all doctors, which is the Prophet, who is the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the greatest of the prophets. All right? Because all these medicines, the pills or vitamins prescribed by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, just as in our when we see doctors, medical doctors regarding the health of our physical body. So now we accept. So if the Prophet say you recite 33 times of tasbih in the morning, so we accept that as coming from authoritative, medical doctor. The Prophet is also the spiritual authority. Okay, so thank you very much, Sister Nurul Shazani. I think that's my presentation for this session.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your input.
Okay, question? Yeah, welcome.
We shall open the floor to any questions or thoughts. Is there anyone who wants to ask questions, please?
So, of course, it is clear that if you don't pray, then you are far away, because, in other words, those spiritual formulae are to be performed after our prayers. Yeah? So if you don't pray, then those medicines is not going to be effective.
Prof, I have a question. Let's say if we have done all these six spiritual exercises, does it mean that we are free from having the spiritual diseases?
If of course, I'm not to say that this. In theory, yes. In theory, yes. In practice, that depends on many things. One of which is your state of consciousness, your sincerity. Yeah, your sincerity. So the niyyah, first of all, the niyyah, the intention. You must have the intention that niyyah, that you are reciting all this, you're practicing this because you want to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to love the Prophet, to follow the Prophet. Basically, we follow it because the Prophet did it. And following the Prophet is a condition for Allah's love, for God's love of us. So but if you are sincere, you do it correctly, you understand, then inshallah, I think Allah will give you a good, healthy heart, spiritual heart.
Yes, because sometimes our iman also going up and down. Sometimes we tend to have bad intentions. We doesn't see it as bad.
That is true. Iman is up and down, but in other words, the issue here is not just iman. Yeah, iman is just one of the elements. Just one of the elements of that, what I call the qalbun salim. There's also the intellectual dimension in the form of understanding, knowledge. Especially when we say La ilaha illallah. I mean, Allah gives us our intellect, our reason. So we should understand what do you mean of Allah. So even if we go to a doctor asking for subscription, I mean, to prescribe some medicine, we do ask questions also. We ask a question about that medicine. Yeah. So now that the Prophet prescribed this La ilaha illallah or Subhanallah, and we just say it without trying to improve our understanding, that cannot be. That cannot be the case.
Okay. Anybody has any questions?
Okay. I suppose because everything is clear, simple. The only thing now is do or don't do. No, you are doing it or not doing it. That's it. So basically now, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Thank you so much for giving us the that wonderful
Who is that? Sister Saima?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, yes.
Thank you so much to hear you. It's lovely to listen you on this thoughtfulness. It's really there are some questions about rituals, religious rituals. That is it important to start the tasbih after every namaz?
Well, that is the practice of the Prophet Sallallahu. That is the recommendation of all the great spiritual authorities, spiritual master. But in terms of the quantity, in terms of how many times, that is the number given is just the minimum. It's just the minimum. That does not prevent us from this invocation, doing the invocation, more frequently. For example, La ilaha illallah. Why should we only say that? We only recite that in the morning, only in the evening? No, it is something we should be integral to our consciousness. Man. Yeah. Because we want when we die at the moment of death, we want the last Allah, do Allah. Yeah, but that has to be habitual. If it's not habitual, then it's difficult. So the question now is how to make things habitual.
Yes, sir.
So some people, yes, Emma, what?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Prof. And members.
Anybody else?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam, brother Adam.
Yeah, I thank you, Prof, and all the members. My question is, I just have a simple question, which says, if somebody, how would you advise somebody who is non-Qalbin Salim? Can this remedy work on a person who has non-Qalbin Salim?
No, sorry, I don't get the question.
I'm saying, you talked, this remedy works for somebody with Qalbin Salim. So my question is, if somebody does not have the Qalbin Salim, can this remedy work on him also or her?
Well, no. I think this one is basically about our own self.
Yeah,
it's our own self. We are not talking about others now. Yeah. In other words, in terms of this practice, what matters is what we as individual, we as a Muslim, as a believer, what are we doing with regard to our efforts to obtain that state of heart which is called Qalbun Salim. Yeah, that is the ideal prescribed by the Quran, by the Prophet Sallallahu. I cannot say that I have I attain the level which is the ideal. No, it is to me. It is a matter of striving. I do not want to miss doing the sixth formula because I don't know what my attainment is. No, so the important thing, I know the formula. Very good, very important. No, this is what guarantees our spiritual. So, we continue to do that until the rest of our life. I think that's the thing. Yeah. So, how to what level I have achieved, I've attained, I leave it to Allah. Allah knows best. Yeah, I cannot describe. Yeah, in terms of my achievement to another person. Although yes, we can discuss. We can discuss about the formula, how to achieve that. Yeah, but I cannot describe. Yeah, in terms of my achievement to another person. Although yes, we can discuss. We can discuss about the formula, how to achieve that. Yeah, but I cannot describe. Yeah, in terms of my achievement to another person. Although yes, we can discuss. We can discuss about the formula, in the case of, for example, a spiritual teacher will continue to explain to his or her disciples, her students, and so on, how this very important spiritual aspect of spirituality to be practiced. I think there is many. In other words, I cannot say another person, whom I'm talking to, another person or a friend, he has a less, his heart is less, peaceful, is less. I cannot say that. I mean, but what is important is we know what Allah expects us. Religion, Islam teaches us these are the things what Allah expects from us. And one of these is the sound heart. So not only he tells us his expectation, what he wants as well, but also how. And he tells, and he sends the Prophet Muhammad as the spiritual teacher. So the Prophet you refer to the Prophet Hadith, then all these are there. I mean, what I've been saying is popular knowledge. But sometimes for some people, of course, for some students, what I can help maybe is to help understand what we do. Yeah, some people do, for example, the tasbih, subhanallah, but he or she understands that tasbih in a certain sense, interprets it in a certain way. It is possible that another person can provide knowledge that will make the understanding of that person better. Yes. So my conversation, say, I and Brother Adam, we have a conversation over a cup of tea, and I want to talk about the significance of tasbih. Yes, I can do that, and then we can compare. We compare notes. All right, your experience of all these years doing the tasbih, this tahmid, the takbir, and I can tell my own experience. Yes, we can compare our experiences, because as I said earlier, the heart perceives, knows, and experiences. So we can compare notes on the experiences of our hearts. But the interesting thing about this Islam, something is that somehow, these experiences can be shared. So there's that there, yeah. And because we are all seeking to share the experiences of the prophets. The prophet experienced a lot of things. He wants to share his experiences with his followers. And what we're trying to do is precisely that. We want to share, to follow. This is the idea. What the meaning of following the Sunnah? What the meaning of following the Prophet Sunnah? Is to share the Prophet's experiences. We want to share the Prophet's experiences so that we will be like him to the best of our ability. I think that is the whole exercise. Brother Adam?
Okay, Brother Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Okay, is there any more question? Or I think there's no more question. All right, thank you very much, Prof, for your input. It's a very interesting topic. Okay, thank you, everyone. I would like to say thank you for everyone for joining us today. And I hope to see you in the next session. Inshallah, to conclude, to keep our spiritual heart in good health, we should have good intentions, because it will affect the quality of outcome of our actions. So to prevent from spiritual diseases, we can practice these 6 spiritual formulae. Our spiritual vitamin, which are tasbih, tahmid, takbir, istighfar, salutation of the Prophet, and also, last but not least, I forgot. What is the last one, Prof? I forgot.
tahlil,
Yes.
la
Yes.
ilaha illallah.
La ilaha illallah. Okay, I hope everyone will learn something new from this session, and inshallah we will meet again in the next session with interesting topic. And let's end this session by reciting Tasbih al-Kafara.